Yeah, that's right. I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Hello, Knicks family. Welcome to Lunchtime Live, the Knicks recap and reaction show, belt to ass edition. The Knicks did the damn thing last night. And listen, I get it. You could say it's only the Nets, but keep in mind, we lost to Sacramento. We lost to Dallas. We've lost to some bad teams. And I thought this was a make or break game for the season. And I don't even think that's hyperbole. I anticipated this game like a playoff game. I had a client. I moved him back to another day because I felt like I need to watch this game. And I usually do that, around playoff time. What a response for the Knicks. Before I get to Jeff, I just want to point this out. It was a dominant performance by the Knicks. Fast break points, 29-4. Second chance points, 12 zip. Points in the paint, 48-20. Bench points, 59-30. The net shot 29.2% overall and 27.5% from the three-point line. Now, it is the Nets. I get it. But for the first time, I thought the poor shooting actually had something to do with the Knicks defense instead of teams just missing shots. Love the response of this team. Does this mean they've turned a corner? I think the Philly game will answer that question more so than this game, but it was good to see how they responded. Jeff, thoughts on the game before we get into
this is what air tastes like, huh? So this is what air tastes
like. Right.
We can breathe again. I think it may not even been on air when we were talking about it. I said we're either gonna kick the snot out of them or it's gonna be another one of these horrendous losses. I didn't see anywhere in between with this game. I don't know why. That was just the feeling that I got, especially after they kind of congregated in what wasn't a players only meeting, but only the players were there and they were talking about the game. So but I really thought that if this team was going to make a statement, they needed to do it. And I would have even thought if this was a close down to the wire game where we won 100-97, I still would have had those concerns. And I'm still a little bit concerned, but this was a statement game when you hold an opponent to 66 points. And I know they were having a bad shooting night, but that doesn't just happen, right? I mean, 66 points is, I think our defensive rating climbed up to third overnight from that. Problem solved, right? We just have one great defensive game every 2 weeks, and we keep our defensive rating in the top 10. I never would have thought about that. But I guess in a way I'm more angry or disappointed than I am excited, because where has this been the last 2 weeks? How many games could we have, avoided losing if we had that effort and that ball movement and that connectivity all along? And why does it take multiple players only meetings to get this team to lock in and focus and play like they're capable of? Like that, those are the questions that I'm asking right now, because last night was everything that you want to see from the Knicks. They were good on the ball. They guarded. They shared the ball. I mean, they had 28 assists on 46 made field goals. All five starters had at least 3 assists. So, you could just tell that they were playing for each other and not just as 5 individuals, which is what it looked like for much of the stretch where we were 2-9. So, I think that you hit it on the head. I think this is an inflection point, but what matters is where we go from here. Like, do we rest on our laurels and say, okay, problem solved, everything's fixed, and then we go into Philly and get our doors blown off? or do we take this as an inflection point and say, okay, now we know we can do it. We've shown we can do it. Now let's carry that forward, build some momentum, and start to play like the championship caliber team that the talent on the roster reflects. And so, again, we won't know those answers till Saturday. We may not even know those answers until after Saturday, right? Even if you beat Philly, the 2 games does not a championship run make, right? We got a lot of catching up to do in terms of Toronto tied us in the standings last night. I think we're percentage points ahead of them, and Boston is still ahead of us by a couple of games. And so we've fallen back to the pack, and so we've got to get moving so we can put some distance between ourselves and even the 6th spot, right? The top 6 spots are all, well, Detroit is heavily ahead, but everybody else 2 through 6 is a crapshoot. But right. I think that one of the things that does concern me is that Brooklyn doesn't have a lot of guys who are really good off the bounce. They don't really attack off the dribble very well. And so I think that kind of masks how good our defense was. Like, I think that's a better defensive matchup for us because they don't have anybody, in my opinion, on the roster who's just going to blow by you. Right. And again, focus was part of that. We've been blown by guys who don't normally do that in games like Sacramento and Dallas. For sure, but I do think that if this was kind of an ideal matchup in terms of what their strengths and talents are. I mean, they kind of.
I'm sorry, yeah.
They kind of matched our double big lineup with 2 bigs, and so I think that helped get Towns going a little bit and some other things. So I think this was, I mean, a good matchup for us to be able to do that, but credit to the Knicks. They took full advantage of it. They didn't mess around. They didn't play with their food. They stepped on their necks, and then they kicked it into a hyperdrive in the 4th quarter with a 32-10 performance. I didn't even know 10 points in an NBA game was possible, but thank you, Brooklyn.
Yeah, so where do we want to go next? I mean, we could talk about the defense. We could talk about the offense. I want to talk about the lineups. I thought I was really feeling Mike Brown's lineups last night. He shortened the rotation to 8, 9, 8.5 last night. But look at the rotations that, so he had the starters in. Then he came in with Shamit, Yabu, and Mitch were the first 3 off the bench. And that lineup did not work at all. I think they gave up like 4 to 6 points right off the bat. Then it was the 3-guard lineup, but instead of Clarkson, it was Shamit. So it was Deuce, Shamit, Brunson, OG, and Mitch. 4 defenders with Brunson. That lineup did well. Then he had Deuce, OG, Cat, Hart, and Shamit. So he had Cat with 3.5 defenders for those of us who don't consider Hart a great defender. But, Cat is in there with Shamit, OG, Deuce, Cat. And again, then it was Brunson, Deuce, OG, Bridges, and Mitch. So now Brunson is in with 4 defenders. So I think that had a lot to do. Listen, I thought the way the Knicks had played, losing 9 out of 11, you could have put them in the game with Mickey Mouse. You were going to get effort last night, for sure. But it helped. Those lineups helped, like just having one person who's not a great defender, and Brunson competed last night. Like, this is the Brunson I remember. Not a great defensive player, but competes on the defensive end. I saw that last night. But to put those lineups around him, it helps. There's defensive effort, but there's also defensive execution, right? You got to have both. Because you can have your effort in all the wrong places, right? And when you optimize those lineups for both offense and defense, now you could be better on a string because you have defensive players that know what the hell is going on and where they're supposed to be, and they're committed to it because they know that's part of their role. So you put 4 of them with Brunson, you're going to get better defense. You put 4, 3 and 3/4, 3 and a possible with Cat, you're going to get better defense. So I thought Mike Brown tightening the rotation and putting those lineups in, that there was some there was no Clarkson, Cat, and Brunson. You know what I mean? Like, these were like strong defensive lineups with either Cat or either Brunson, and there was times when you had to play them together. But that really helped the Knicks as well. So shout out to Mike Brown for that. I know some will complain, oh, that's just like Thibodeau. He's playing 8.5. But listen, this is a dire situation here. You lose 9 of your last 11. Tighten that shit up, and that's what he did. And the difference between Thibodeau is every game was a dire situation with Thibodeau. Every game, 7, 8, 8.5. Mike Brown will extend it if he needs to extend it, or if he feel he can extend it, if it's due to injuries or blowouts or whatever. But when it's time to buckle up, he's shown that he can tighten that rotation. And Shamet has effectively replaced Clarkson in the lineup. And you could say that, Clarkson, as far as being able to get his shot off the bounce, is better than Shamet. But for what this team needs right now is Shamet, even though he can be inconsistent. Like, that's my complaint with him. He's 6 of 6 tonight. Tomorrow, he 1 of 8. But I digress. His defense, whether it's point of attack, on the wing, even bigger players than him, he's going to fight you tooth and nail for position, even if he's undersized. And his ability to handle the ball. Anyway, I don't want to get into a Shamet rant. Listen, 6 of 7 overall and 6 of 6 from 3-point line is not sustainable. It's just not. But last night he was really good. So just wanted to anything you want to piggyback on in terms of
actually, yes. First of all, great opening monologue here. That's exactly where I was thinking and where I was going. We didn't really, try and dice. Sometimes we talk before the show and we kind of
I was late coming in.
But today we didn't, and so but that was a lot of what my mindset was. And I've been a proponent of Deuce McBride in the starting lineup for that exact reason, right? Have the point of attack defender be either Deuce or Landry, and that shifts Mikal and OG to more comfortable positions where they're kind of, they're not having to play the point of attack, so they're off the ball, and then they can kind of wreak and create the havoc that they're so good at. And Shamet is such a good screen navigator. I think he really fits well in the even in the starting lineup. Like, I understand that we're committed to the 5 that are probably our 5 best players just in and of themselves. But when a coach is against the wall, you see which players they trust. And I think it spoke volumes that Clarkson was kind of glued to the bench for most of this game. It showed me that Mike Brown trusts what Shamet can do and what McBride can do far more than he does what Jordan could do. And I don't want this to be a Jordan Clarkson roast session. That's not what I'm saying. But for this team at this time, he's just not what we need. And I think it's interesting to go back to the point that we were making when the sky was falling after Dallas, is that he was brought in before Mike Brown was here, right? He predates Mike Brown by a few days. And so you have to wonder, well, if they knew Mike Brown was going to be the coach, would they have brought him in the first place? Or is this a case of Mike Brown's having to deal with players? And I think Yabusele is another one that's kind of like doesn't really fit with what Mike Brown wants to do and those sorts of things. And he's trying to incorporate all these guys. And I think you saw the Yabu lineup was kind of a disaster in and of itself again. And that's not entirely his fault. I'm not placing all the blame on him, but I think to say that he's been underwhelming isn't exactly, breaking news for Knicks Nation. And so, I do think that the lineups were much better. And I think that it's playing to the team's strengths, right? And working out combinations where you're maximizing the talent that's on the floor. And I don't think Shamet's floor spacing should be underestimated either, because I think that that's a key to our offense running well. I know he was lights out in a way that he isn't normally. But even on nights when he doesn't shoot the ball well, he's kind of like Deuce. People are going to respect him and cover him. They're not just going to automatically leave to double in a way that they will with, say, a Josh Hart or, or some of these other guys. Like the game plan is never leave Landry Shamet wide open for 10 threes. Although Mike Brown might have that game plan if he were coaching against the Knicks. I don't know, but I think he's a lot like McBride in that sense, is that even when they're not on, they're enough of a legitimate threat historically that people are going to guard them.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to the defense in terms of if what we saw last night was sustainable. Because, like I said, you can have a whole lot of effort in all the wrong places. And there was a time or two where I felt like there was like 3 or 4. Like it was one possession where I thought 3 or 4 players was on one guy in the key, and I'm like, wow. Well, thank goodness they weren't able to get it out to anybody or on the 3-point line. But for the most part, I thought the energy was there. I thought they competed. I thought they may have over rotated a little bit, but I didn't get the sense where they were just flying to the ball before the person even, put the ball on, on the floor. I thought there was some defensive discipline last night. Now, we're gonna get a better sense of that defense when we play Philly on Saturday, because I'm not sure Brooklyn had enough players that can make you pay for any defensive mistakes that you make. But from the eye test, anyway, to me, it looked like the Knicks were where they were supposed to be. They weren't over rotating. They were fighting, over screens. If they were a little late getting over the screen, somebody was there to kind of hedge a little bit until they were able to get over, as opposed to one screen, somebody's wide open for 3 with one pass. Thoughts on the defense? Do you see anything different, or do you think it was just that the Nets were so bad and the Knicks defense was pretty much the same?
You can't say that it was the same, because like Max Christie is not a superstar player. We let him go 8 of 10 from 3 just the other night, right? And so I think that there's no question that there was more juice in the ball for them on defense. They were more active, and the activity makes a difference, as we can see. And when you're more active, even when you do make a mistake, but you hustle back in your rotations, that is, that shows you that the energy is there and the effort is there, and that's what a lot of defense is sometimes. It is about scheming and those sorts of things, and game planning for specific players' strengths. But you can have the best game plan in the world, if you're not flying all over the place attacking the ball, it doesn't matter what you're doing, right? I mean, I use the example. I was a high school coach, and people used to ask, well, why do you play a 2-3 zone instead of a man-to-man? And I was like, well, man-to-man principles and zone principles aren't that different, in some ways. And you look at a 2-3 zone that's active and long, like Syracuse ran under Jim Boeheim, one of the best defenses you'll ever see, right? And then there are other times when, great man-to-man defense is incredible too, but but there, one commonality is it's about effort, and it's about being on a string, and about all 5 guys being committed to the bit, so to speak. If you got one player who's not doing his job, whether that's Brunson, whether that's Cat, whether that's whomever, that one player not doing their job can cause the entire defense to break down. And that's when you can see good defenders like Deuce McBride not getting out to a shooter. Well, that's because he was, he's forced to react and do other things that he shouldn't have to do if the other defenders were doing their job. And so that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. The Knicks gave up only 66 points in that game last night. 54-point margin of victory, which was the most in team history. Michael Porter Jr. averages 25.7 points per game. He had 12 or 14 points last night, and mostly Bridges and Hart was guarding him. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And I thought this was the best the Knicks did in keying in on the best player. There was no hot players, but at least the best player they keyed in on, and I'm just hoping that the defensive intensity is better, that this continues, I should say, that the over rotation or not over rotating, I hope that continues. And when guys not dying on screens, fighting over screens, I hope that continues. And then hedging and helping when someone does get caught up on the screen. I hope that that continues as well. We're gonna play better teams. Whereas if you're late and you don't execute well, they're gonna burn you, right? And I think Philly is one of those one of those teams. So I'm actually really, really looking forward to Saturday's game. So I could really is this team back? And keep in mind, sometimes your process can be good and you still lose a game, right? I would still feel, listen, I don't want to lose to Philly at all. I've seen enough losing for the season. But if the Knicks are out there doing what they're supposed to do and the shots are just not falling, the shots are not falling, but you're taking good shots, everybody's involved and get fine. That's what I need to see going forward. Where do you want to go next, Jeff?
I think sometimes too that the better effort on defense leads to better offense, right? Because we were what 57-50 like last night, 57% from the field, 50% from three, but a lot of those threes were wide open looks. It wasn't like we were just doing this amazingly difficult, high degree of difficulty shot making. We're getting wide open looks because the ball was constantly moving, and you can't move as fast as the ball, and it just hit a point where the Nets just like gave up. Like they just literally were like, yeah, we don't want to be here anymore. This is miserable. Like, let's just get out of town. And especially in that fourth quarter, I think they had they didn't have a single field goal in the first 6 minutes of the fourth quarter because they were just their body language was bad. They were just defeated, and the Knicks defense is what did that to them, and it's what led to the good offense and the open looks. I mean, when Shamet is going to get the ball in a catch and shoot situation, he's going to knock down shots. That's all there is to it. And as it goes, we've seen, to go back to the defense for a minute, we've seen the Knicks let guys like Michael Porter Jr. absolutely go off on us in the last month. So to see the combination of those things, that yes, we're taking this seriously, we're going to shut this down, but that we're also going to play within a team concept. And I thought Brunson didn't shoot the ball from three very well last night, but when he got into the paint, he was deadly. He was killer, and the ball moved, and people got looks. I thought the shot distribution was good. I still would like to see Towns get a few more shots, but he only played 20 minutes, and he had a couple more of his patented offensive fouls, that are annoying to me because they see the hook, which is a foul, but they never see the contact before the hook. And
he's getting bodied, Jeff.
90% of the league gets that call before the hook, and they're just allowed to like slam into him and do whatever they need to do. And yes, Towns needs to be smarter. He needs to be better, but it needs to be fair too. Like if you shouldn't just be allowed to smack him around to the point where he's got to hook his arm to get him off you. Like you obviously are keyed in on looking for the hook, key in on looking for the contact before the hook, and get this man some free throws, because it's getting to the point of ridiculousness in my opinion. So and that's, I'm not blaming that for anything. Like they call the game how they call the game, and Cat's got to adjust, but it's just certain things I see about the game. Call it the same way on both ends. Like if you're gonna see that contact on the opposing bigs, see it on Towns, because he's an all-star player. He deserves some of those calls.
Facts. And a guard would never allow any guard in this league to have that much contact when they put the ball on the floor without calling a foul. Nobody. But he just gets rid. Basically, they're riding him all the way to the basket. Like I maybe they have to put send a tape to the league office. The Knicks have done that in the past. Just to piggyback off what you said offensively, I like the Knicks process. last night in, in moving the ball, getting everybody involved, but guys responded. Guys responded, and that makes it easier when you're passing somebody the ball and they're hitting shots and they're making something happen and they're making the extra pass. That definitely helps. I'm not gonna say that I fully trust OG and Bridges again on the offensive end in terms of consistency, but there's a long roadway to see if they've turned the corner um, as well. OG didn't take a lot of shots last night. He only took 4. Didn't take any threes. Is this the full game or just the first? Yeah, that's the full game. Didn't take any threes. 5 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and that's fine. He was plus 28 for those who are into into that. Nobody really took a lot of shots. Hart took 5 shots. Wow, made all 5 of them. Karl Anthony Towns had 8. Bridges 9. The Knicks shot really well last night. Shamet helped going 6 to 7. McBride was great, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. And Clarkson, his 12 minutes, that was garbage. Like he played all the fourth quarter, but that's really garbage. The game was over, by that time. But I thought offensively, the ball movement and player movement was there. It looked like the Knicks that I was accustomed to watching before January 1st. Any other thoughts on the and I just want to say they shot 57.5% from the field and 50% from 3. And they played with pace. Got the ball up the floor quick as well. 29 fast break points for the Knicks. Some of that is Brooklyn's lack of transition defense, but 29 fast break points still.
But it also is you got stops, right? When you get rebounds, it's a lot easier to push the pace. When the ball's going through the net, it's much more difficult. It's easier for the defense to get set up. When you get the rebound and you've got guys like Josh Hart who can grab it and go, and especially if he's playing as a 4, he really has an advantage in that sense and pushing the pace and getting us to play faster. And as you said, you can push the pace. You could play with pace, but still, play in the half court. Like those things aren't mutually exclusive by any stretch of the imagination. And so I think the Knicks kind of have to find a balance between those two things, right? Keep the pace up, but also be cognizant that our strengths are in the half court, and I think that will help us with getting Towns more active and more involved, and I love that Brunson was in the paint and he was cooking in there because I'm confident in his 3-point shooting. Like he had an off night, but for the season he's shooting just fine from 3, and and if Towns' percentages rise to career levels, I mean, that's going to help us immensely as well, right?
The shot looked like it was back last night.
Yeah, it absolutely did. And so if that's the case, then that's a yeah. But I mean, a wide open look is a wide open look, though, right? It doesn't matter who it's against, and so shot diet is the same. Well, it wasn't making them before, he made them last night. That's an improvement. So I think. Again, there's a long way to go. There's a lot of work to do with this team, but this was, this was, have you ever broken a bone and you have to have it reset, and that's what this was. This was the reset. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be in a cast for a while and you're not going to have to do physical therapy. There's a lot of work that comes after that initial healing portion happens. And I think that's the case with the Knicks, but this team needed a reset, and this was kind of a hard reset. Like your PC's not working. Well, you Control Alt Delete, you shut it down, and then and now it boots back up, and hopefully it starts running better, and it certainly ran correctly last night. And we have 2 days to prepare and rest and get ready for Philadelphia, and we need another effort on the road against the Sixers in a gym that historically has been very kind to Brunson and Hart. So hopefully we can continue to get good performances from them in their home away from home.
Yeah. Encouraged by some of the things I saw last night, but it can go up in smoke depending on how they play Saturday. Before I get to the chat, Jeff, we spoke about the response, the defense, the offense, the shortened rotations, Cat, Brunson, Shamit. Anybody else or anything else before we?
I want to give a quick shout out to my guy Mitchell Robinson.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it gets kind of lost in a game like this. You don't really pay attention to the stat sheet because everybody's got big stats. But I thought that Mitchell Robinson for the second game in a row really looks back to himself, in my opinion. His rim protection has been a little better, and his defense is kind of catching up to the rebounding portion of it. And I don't think it's a coincidence that coincides with him getting a few lobs, right? Give him the ball up top where you can just dunk the ball, right? I think that's maybe 3 or 4 in the last couple of games. Where if we could see more of that, I think the more that you can feed him and get him easy buckets, I think maybe you get a little bit more juice and a little bit more bounce in his step. And we have a couple of days off, so he should be ready for Joel Embiid and Philadelphia next.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I had that in my notes in that first quarter. Like Mitchell Robinson was, he always comes to play, but you could tell he was dialed in last night on the defensive end, right? Rotations, rim protection, just look quicker, than ever last night. Got us some really good rebounds to offensive rebounds and kickouts in that first quarter. Yeah, Mitchell Robinson was really, really good last night. And on this particular team defensively, if you think about Brunson and Cat, we can't have any drop off from Mitchell Robinson, OG, Bridges, Shamit, Deuce. They got to be their best defensive selves. And I thought Mitch was that last night.
That's exactly it. They can't just be okay.
Right.
They're not allowed to just be okay. They have to be great, because if they're not, then that's when the cracks in the armor start to show. So I think that's a fantastic point. Yeah, we need them to be better than average consistently. Like we can't have the Landry Shamit shooting experience from 3 as far as defensive effort from those guys. We need rock solid and steady, and Wingstop has especially not been doing that for us of late. So, but again, I think having the extra point of attack defender and relying on Shamit and Deuce unlocks those 2 guys, and we saw that again last night. And it's something that we've talked about for a long time on the show, since the beginning of the season. That was really one of the things. Remember when Shamit got inserted in the starting lineup because of injury early in the year? It was one of the things that you and I both noticed, that it's like, yeah, this is working. And then kind of other injuries, including to Shamit himself, kind of derailed that train. And it's like, oh yeah, we found our fountain of youth again. We found what worked. We're doing what makes sense with the talent that we have, which is what you want.
Yeah, and I think the lineups around them matter too. And I think when I was keeping my notes, I was keeping my notes per lineup. The first time I did that last night, and you got to be on a string. And listen, Cat and Brunson are not great defensively, but you can be a really good team defender if you're not a great individual defender, by being where you're supposed to be. Right. And anticipating where the ball is going. So you could be like you're not just reacting, you're moving, you're anticipating, you're getting there just a half second faster. And and it makes a difference. And lineups matter too. Like if you got a Kolick, Clarkson, Brunson lineup with a Cat and a Bridges. And I'm not saying that that's ever been a lineup, but it may have been, early. Like what
felt like it.
Felt like. What are you expecting? What are you expecting? So, they have to be better executing effort, and Mike Brown has to be better in optimizing these lineups for both offense and defense. And I think you can. I mean, other than Mitchell Robinson, who else? And Mitchell Robinson is still going to give you offensive rebounds and more offensive opportunities. So it's not like if you optimize a lineup for defense, you're not going to get any offense from that lineup. It's not, it's not true. So he has lineup versatility, and I think he just has to be much more intentional, and he probably has been. It's just been lineups I don't like. You know, he might have been very intentional about it, but I just didn't like. I just think he has to be more intentional about who's out there if you want the defense to play better. And we did some 3-ball lineups, but a 3-guard lineup with Shamet, Deuce, Brunson, and then in the back you got an OG and Robinson. I mean, that's a short lineup, but you got some stout, physical defenders, as those other 2 guards are, in my opinion. And then you got rim protection in the back, particularly how Mitchell Robinson has been playing of late. And you have that potential in in OG, though he's been slipping and sliding and not playing his best defensive ball. But yeah, I like what Mike Brown did in that respect.
All right, I'm convinced we need to fire Mike Brown and hire Steph. I don't. I like this. That's music to my ears. She's playing the violins over here. I'm like, oh wait, what?
You're gonna be like, oh, that's Tibbs Light over there. Then she walked right past McBride. She didn't even say good morning. Oh boy! All right. Anything else before we get to the chat?
Let's get these folks in the chat. They've been talking up a storm. We need to get them involved here.
Yeah, appreciate that. FSIN 6897. Nice win last night. No complaints. Just replicate that effort on defense moving forward. I totally agree. Good job, Coach Brown and players. Absolutely. Andrew K. It was nice to see some defense out of the gate. Can't remember the last time Knicks held an opponent under 30 in the first quarter. Yes, absolutely. Benson, Insid, LGK. I keep getting that messed up. Message to the fans: we're still a good team. Now let us solve our problems our way. Check back in April. Okay. Sherwin, good afternoon. Brooklyn is a G League team. They are playing not to win. Shit, we lost to the Dallas Legends the other night. You got it when you lose 9 of your last 11. It doesn't matter if it's the Washington General. What is that? The Washington Generals. I think it is. That's the Harlem Globetrotters. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's the Bronx Gauchos. You just have to get a win. It doesn't matter. And they got it, in really good fashion. To Jeff's point, if we would have won like 101-97, I don't know if we're sitting here thinking that this could be the beginning of a turnaround. We'd probably be here talking about we won, but by 4 points in Brooklyn? Not sure. Okay. All right. I thought I banned this user. I guess not. Ribby RM, they were pointless till 6 minutes in the fourth. Absolutely. Deuce and Shameless were definitely defending.
Poor auto. He got auto corrected there. There's no doubt about that. I don't think
he meant Shaman. He meant Shaman. Mike Brown did a great job with rotations, defenders, and more defenders. Yeah, we got you. All right, I'm trying to mix it up. Dwayne Dennis, let's see if they can string together 4 wins in a row. Okay, my holy king. Knicks look good last night because they played the Nets. How did that work for us against Sacramento and Dallas? They were not good teams, and the Knicks did not look great. Dorkosaurus Rex, Shamit's defense is performative. It's activity, not impact. NBA defensive theater. Oh, I totally disagree with that. I totally disagree. If you watch him individually, like if you're telling me that he's doing all this activity and he's bodying guys up and they're still backing him down and scoring and they're still getting around him. I mean, sometimes the offensive players are just better, but I just disagree with that. And where was his elite point of, first of all, we're not talking about elite point of attack defense. We're just talking about him as a defender, period, particularly when he's guarding bigger, stronger guys. And even if you're a point of attack, a defender, if you don't have other guys on a rope doing their job, it's not going to matter.
And to the point, he and Deuce are the best point of attack defenders we have on small guards. So you can say what you want to that he's not elite, that the numbers don't. On this team with this group, that's the best we got is those two. And if you don't like those two, that means that we've got to go out and find somebody else, because nobody else. If you're expecting that out of Bridges, he's shown time and time again that that's not his forte. He's much better off the ball. And so is Anunoby for the large part of his game. I think that's one of the lessons that we're learning as we see this team go through its struggles.
Yeah. And a point of attack defender, you're going to have to navigate screens, and there's times you're going to get picked off. And if it's just you and there's no one to help, I mean, you can't expect Deuce, anybody, just keep this person out of the key. Period. Whether you get help or not, screened off or not, just that's your job. Keep them out of the key. You make it as difficult as you can. Mitch, OG, and Bridges can recover when they are not picked off. Maybe you mean when they are picked off. Because if they're not picked off, there's no need to recover, right? If you pick one off, then you have a 4 on 2.5 as Cat is never stepping up. You know what? How much of that is scheme, though? And that's something that we don't know. Is he supposed to be in drop, or is he supposed to step up to the level of the screen? We don't know what the scheme is. Okay. All right. Edward Walker beating the 76ers would be a great sign that the Knicks are back on track. It definitely would.
Without a doubt. And if not, DX Relish will be here to remind us.
Oh, you're right. I'm surprised he's not here this morning. This upcoming 76ers game is the only 76ers game that isn't the second game of a back-to-back. Knicks better make it count.
Amen, sir. Well spoken.
David Smith, Cat 3-point shot is back. It sure looked like it last night.
That's a game changer, by the way. If he gets back to 40% from three, then that opens everything up for him, because that means you got to go up tighter on him. And if not, then we'll just reap the benefits, right? Just free points, easy points. So yeah, that's a great sign, David. I agree.
It is. Randu, it was a good one last night, but I'm waiting to see how we're going to play against Philly, Detroit, Orlando, the Thunder, Nuggets, Rockets, Boston. Then we'll see how good we really are. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. But if you look at the compete factor, even before January 1st, when we just fell off a cliff, the compete factor and how we were operating offensively, in my mind, we were just as good or playing just as good as, any of those teams. And I would be looking forward to it, not in the sense of let's see where we are compared to these good teams. I would be looking at, this is going to be really, really good. 2 good teams going against it. My point is, if the Knicks are back to that, then I'm looking at these matchups differently, right? Than I am if I'm thinking the Knicks are the team we saw since January 1st.
Well, and what's funny is that in our 2-9 stretch, our 2 wins are against the Clippers, who have been playing as well as anybody. I mean, they've just been destroying the league of late. And then a Portland team who's really come on as well. So even during our stretch of foils, when we did have wins, they were games against quality teams, maybe not elite teams, but they were games against teams that were playing very well, and we were able to turn it around. So but again, you don't erase 2-9 by one victory on January 21st. You got to do it. We've got to get the Sixers game and then keep going as it goes along. But we have an opportunity, and that's all you want.
Talk of service recs again. The Knicks need to show they can win when the game goes off script. They got to show they can win when the game goes off script again, because I saw that against Orlando when they were really physical and taking away the 3-point shot. The Knicks went into the paint and dominated. And the same thing when we beat San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Cup. And that's what, before January 1st, every time we came on the recap show, that's what we were talking about, how teams are taking certain things away from the Knicks. Like, that's the name of the game anyway, right? You know how teams are going to play. You try to take it away. How will the team respond? And every game I was coming back and saying, wow, this is a really good team. The other team took this away. The Knicks found another way to respond. Next game, the team took this away. The Knicks found another way to respond and win the game. So I've seen it before. But to your point, I need to see it again. Curtis D. Young, it's easier to hide one non-defensive player than it is to hide two. The 4 defensive players can operate more efficiently and create more shots in transition. They can, but at the same time, we have to find a way. The Knicks aren't Denver, but, Denver had the 12th ranked defense with the Joker and Murray in the lineup and whatever guys they had around them. You're not gonna. There's no way you can play an entire game staggering Cat and Brunson. They're going to have to play together, and the Knicks are going to have to figure out, how to be better defensively when both of them play together. I actually liked what I saw the first play or two of the game when they played off of each other really well, and I think it was Cat got Brunson a layup, if I'm not mistaken. I was like, whoa. Okay. Oh, is this what's going to come? Because they should be, theoretically anyway, they should be able to play off of each other. We just haven't seen it in 2 years now. Okay. Great point, Jeff. Better defense leads to better offense. Great take debates. Appreciate you rocking with us. Detroit fan, always coming in, rocking with us. Queen Jeff, if I had to commit to any one team for the chip, my order would be Thunder, Pistons, Spurs, Celtics, and even then with injuries, it's a crapshoot. It's a long season. Yeah, I hear you. I don't know if I would put the Pistons ahead of the Spurs. But yeah.
I think that's fair. I'm not sure I would put Boston into the championship conversation either. I know Brown's playing well and they're playing over their heads, but I really think it's probably a 2-horse race between the Thunder and the Pistons. I think the Spurs are probably a season away. Just, those guys they have a lot of young players that kind of need to get a little bit more seasoning. And I know the Thunder were young last year, but SGA was a little bit older than their stars. So I think that they still have they need to get roughed up in the playoffs a little bit, I think, before.
Yeah. I think I was just thinking about talent and how they were playing this year, but you're absolutely right. If this is chip talk, experience matters and going through the wars matter. So that is fair. All right. Let me see. Anything else you see, Jeff? Okay, I do. I want Yabusele to Chicago for Dalen Terry, 6'7", elite point of attack defender, 7'1" wingspan, top 10 NBA by average speed. Yeah. I liked him coming out of college. I'm not even sure if he's in the rotation in Chicago. If the Knicks can get him without giving up, they can get him for Yabusele. But where's he going to play? That's the issue. Yabusele is playing like last night. He played 11 minutes, and that wasn't even garbage time. That was 11 minutes. So maybe they've made a decision that he's going to be in the rotation. We'll see, because it switches up. You think we got the rotation down pat, in the next game is something else. But he played 11 minutes last night in, regular time. So 11 minutes for a 6'7" elite point of attack defender. I'll take it. I liked him coming out of college.
But I do think that if you do get Terry, you need to do some other organizational shifting. And in other words, if you're going to bring in a player like Terry, you got to kind of open up a spot for him. So if that maybe means moving Deuce or Shamet for a big, You know what I'm saying? In other words, I don't think you should just do that swap straight up because you're trading big for small and and or big for a wing, whatever you want to call it. And so I think that we would have to bring back some balance to the roster because I do think that you do see some duplication with Deuce and Shamit. And so if you're going to be injecting Dalen Terry into that role, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that I would be more comfortable if then we shifted some, maybe moving Clarkson and somebody else to get somebody who's more of a 4-5 or a 3-4, that we can that we can put in a pinch.
I think Clarkson is out of the rotation. I wouldn't be surprised if Clarkson and Yabu were traded before the deadline. I wouldn't trade Deuce unless this is like part of a major trade. And I'm not sure how much trade value Shamit has as a vet. That's on a.
Yeah, I was thinking more that aggregating salaries to bring in somebody of consequence, right? Not just, in other words, that like the Terry Yabusele is kind of from what I understand, I didn't look at it, but it looks like it's a 1-for-1 swap. So if that be the case, then you're just shuffling deck chairs, improving the team, but salary wise, you're shuffling deck chairs. So if you're going to bring in somebody else who's maybe a more a big who's more reliable off the bench, then maybe moving some of the Daddy along with Clarkson and somebody else and bringing in like a higher value player. I don't know. I haven't really looked at it that close. I just if you're gonna get rid of Yabusele, I think this team does need another big somewhere. And if you want to argue that's Huck Porty or somebody in house, you can. But again, it's kind of like you with the Knicks need a backup point guard, which I agree with. I kind of think we need a backup 4 somewhere. That's quality as well.
And another big wouldn't hurt. And a partridge in the pear tree.
Yeah, I get it. My water's working overtime. I understand
too, that. Jeff. Mine too. Benji, appreciate you rocking with us. The speculated Cat trades were laughably bad. Would never consider dealing him. He stays and is an integral part of our success. I do agree with that. And I thought Cat played well in the playoffs last season. I don't think we get to the Pacers without his play in the first 2 rounds. Reese Anderson, a little win versus Brooklyn. BK don't mean crap. I hear you. Jeffrey
it's a win in the standings, and we got to get to 45-50 at least. So it means a little bit, right? We keep climbing the ladder. Like you can't just say, oh well, the Brooklyn Nets are terrible, we could lose that game, right? I mean, yes, it means something. You got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and when you smack them into oblivion like the Knicks did, more power to them. Like I feel like we skirt both sides of the fence here. Every win that we have, we get to make a laundry list of excuses for why the other team lost, and then we do the opposite when it comes to the Knicks. When we lose a game, there's a lot. Well, none of those excuses matter. We should just win. Well, if we're gonna give context for the losses, that we should give context to the wins too. And I think in context, this is a good win.
It was a beatdown. Belt to ass. This was a beat down. This wasn't like squeaking out a win against a bad team. Jeffrey Burgess, let's not get excited. It's the Nets. Okay. All right. I hear you. Keith Turner, I have a question. If we would have lost to Brooklyn, would Leon Rose would have been for listen, if we would have this is why I was like, oh, I gotta watch this game. Like this could be a season turning game right here. We lose to Brooklyn, Leon, they might have burnt the Garden down, I think Leon Rose would have been on the hot seat. Mike Brown might have been on the hot seat. They might have pulled the trigger on the trade, maybe sooner than they wanted to. I think everything would have been, up for discussion had they lost to the Nets. Okay. Appreciate you, Knicks Nation. Great win, but Nets stands for not even the same. Okay. And he also said Shaman is not a cone. He gives resistance against all opponents, excuse me. All right. Wiz in the house. Appreciate you. I've been saying all season that this bench is not better than last year. We just need a coach who can make the right rotations and add offensive schemes. The two players we brought in for the bench barely played or contributed. Right? Clarkson didn't play. Yabu had. Okay, maybe I'm missing something, but I appreciate you, rocking with us. Okay. Brooklyn, 1982. A win is a win is a win, especially when you're hemorrhaging losses, which we were. Anyway, any last words, John?
Question.
And we get the day off tonight.
Yeah, I was about to say I wanted to make that clear. We did the daily show on Tuesday, or weekly show on Tuesday, so no show tonight. But and the game's on Saturday, so here's the thing though, we're supposed to have snow in Texas, believe it or not, in West Texas, and so if church gets canceled, I may be available for the Sunday show because I'll be sitting in the house anyway. So I may, if you're doing a lunchtime live, I know you do them a little bit earlier, but
on Sunday I will.
Lunchtime live, we'll call it, because it's more like 10 o'clock.
Right. And I might be back in New York. I'm in Georgia now. There was like a half an inch of snow that when it hit the concrete, it melted, but you could still see the snow on the grass. Church was canceled. I wasn't going to church, but my aunt was going to church. Church was canceled. I said, the roads are just a little wet. Like, the roads are clear.
Yeah, but you can't have little old ladies trying to get to church and wrecking their cars on the side. I get it, but
the amount of wetness was similar to a light rain.
Okay.
Anyway, that's Georgia. If I can't find somebody to dig me out while I'm down here, I might have to fly back to New York because it's supposed to be anywhere from 7 to 12 inches. I don't know. Anyway, I appreciate you. Thank you for that. I feel like a coach who team plays well, and so you give them the day off, because we were going to go tonight if the Knicks had lost. So now we get a day off, right? Because they won. I appreciate you guys, the silent listeners, those in the chat, the replay king, of course, and Jeff, you already know. Until next time, family.
Sister, you're one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Don't so.
Where you at?
Don't so.